Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a coffee tutorial, but also kind of a tribute to one of my all-time favorite YouTubers, Peter McKinnon. If you haven't checked out Peter McKinnon's channel, where have you been? Pretty much everything I know about cameras has either been from my brother or from Peter McKinnon. And another reason why I feel kind of a kindred spirit type of bond there is because he loves coffee, and I love coffee. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, and specifically how Peter McKinnon makes his coffee. So recently, he's been using his La Marzocco espresso machine a lot, and who wouldn't? That thing is a beast of a machine. But he also makes a lot of coffee with this thing, the Chemex. And this is something that's a lot easier for us mere mortals to get our hands on. So right now, I'm going to walk you through the process of making pour-over coffee with the Chemex. So we're going to start with a Chemex filter. And this filter is actually one sheet of paper that's folded up into a square. So when we open it, we want 3 sheets of the fold toward the spout, and the other 1 sheet of the fold toward the back of the maker. Then we're just gonna pour hot water over the filter and get the whole thing wet. This is gonna keep any paper taste from getting into the coffee while we're brewing. Next, we're gonna grind the coffee. For Chemex, you want a pretty coarse grind, but not as coarse as you would use for a French press. If you wanna find out more about using good coffee and finding the right grinder, there's a link in the YouTube card right here to a video that I did on that topic. So now we're ready to put the coffee grinds into the filter. I would suggest using a scale to measure out how much coffee and how much water you're going to use. With the Chemex, I use a ratio of 1 to 15 coffee to water. So for a decent sized mug of coffee, about 300 grams of water and 20 grams of ground coffee. So now we're at the brewing stage. And the first thing we want to do here is let the coffee bloom. What that means is we're going to add a little bit of water to the coffee and then wait for a little while so that the CO2 trapped in the coffee from the roasting process can release before we start brewing. So to start the bloom, you want to pour in enough water to cover all the coffee. A good rule of thumb is twice the amount of water that you have coffee. So for this example, with 20 grams of coffee, you would pour in about 40 grams of water. Again, using a scale here is going to be critical to getting the best cup of coffee out of this. After you've poured the water for the bloom, you're going to want to wait a little while. The fresher the coffee is, the longer it's going to need to bloom. So if you're using really fresh coffee, you're probably going to need to wait about a minute for the bloom. During the bloom, you'll see the grinds start to rise up, and when it's finished, it'll fall down into a much more concave shape. So now that the bloom's finished, we can start with the rest of the brewing cycle. You want to use water that's as close to 200 degrees as you can, so it's really helpful if you have a thermometer to use. So for pour-over coffee, you're going to want to use a gooseneck kettle. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to control the flow rate of the water as you're pouring it in. As we add the water, we want to pour in concentric circles starting from the center and moving outward. This is going to help us make sure that the coffee gets evenly soaked with the same amount of water as close as we can get it. As you pour the water in, you want to let the liquid get up to about the level where the bloom rose up to. After the liquid reaches this level, stop pouring and let it brew through for a minute. You want to try to keep the coffee brewing at the same rate throughout. So once the liquid level has gone down a little bit, you can start pouring in more water again. Remember as you're pouring to use a concentric circle pattern starting from the inside and going out. This part of the process is where a scale is crucial. You want to have your maker on top of the scale and be looking at how much water you've poured in as you go. Now once you've poured in the full amount of water for the brew, you can step back and let it finish brewing through. The total amount of time you want to aim for the whole brew process is about 3.5 minutes after you finish the bloom. If your brew time is too fast or too slow, there's a couple things you can adjust. First of all, the grind size. A coarser grind size is going to let water flow through more quickly, and with a finer grind size, the water goes through more slowly. So once you're done brewing, a little pro tip, pour a little bit of the hot water that's left over into your mug to heat up the mug before you put coffee in it. And that's it. So now you know how to make Chemex coffee like Peter McKinnon. If you guys follow him on social media, go ahead and tag him on this. It'd be awesome if we could get him to watch this. Peter, if you do watch this, tell us if you do something a little bit different to make your coffee. Also, if you just want to hang out, make coffee sometime, hit me up. I'd be down for that. So Peter McKinnon also has his own blend of coffee. I'm going to link that below in the description of this video. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Maybe if you do your coffee a little bit differently with the Chemex, put that down there. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button.